74-year-old Gregg Popovich has signed a 5-year, almost $80 million deal to remain the Spurs head coach for the foreseeable future. There's no denying the greatness and legacy of Pop, and he being regarded by most as the greatest of all time. But with that being said, there is a divide among Spurs fans as to whether he should stay essentially forever, or if his best days are behind him, or if they left with Timmy. Whether fans hate or love Pop for his past coaching, current coaching, ridicule or playful banter with reporters, political stances, the fact that he's closer to 100 years old than he is any of the players on his roster's age, I think it's important to put emotions aside and look at the big picture. I've been on the move on from Pop train for a few years now, and it's not for any of the reasons I've previously stated. I think he's the perfect fit for what the Spurs have wanted to do from day one, and I honestly don't feel like he's lost a step at all as far as coaching goes. The problem I see is that the players in today's NBA don't have the patience or desire of rings over money that they did in past decades, and that's what the Spurs as an organization have centered their model around. Today's NBA is centered around superstar players, shoe deals, max contracts, commercials, all the flashy things that go along with it, and absolutely none of that makes anyone think San Antonio Spurs. Pop sings the praises of LeBron and KD and Dame and Book and all the other superstars he's coached with Team USA pretty much every chance he gets, but when was the last time he actually pursued a player like that in free agency? When's the last time he developed a player to be that type of star? There was a recent poll that the NBA players took asking them, which current coach would you love to play for? And Pop was number one by a long shot. It wasn't even close. But again, when was the last time a player tried forcing a trade to San Antonio? When's the last time a big name free agent even took a visit to San Antonio? I don't mean to oversimplify the situation, but when you look back on the Steven Jackson, LaMarcus Aldridge, Kawhi Leonard, DeJounte Murray, those types of situations, it's pretty clear that many high-level players aren't on board with the sit down, shut up, and fall in line mantra that the organization basically lives by. I mean, it's great when you have an all-world player like Tim Duncan that has the no-ego personality and willingness to take less money and willing to be coached as hard as the last guy on the bench, but that's just not today's elite players. My opinion the past few years has been that since we don't have an actual star, the team hasn't been good, bring in Pop's replacement and let him or her get settled in while there's basically no expectations. Spurs' current situation is actually changing my mind. Looking at the contracts and the lack of spending in free agency or trading, the team seems to be content with the core young guys and all the expiring contracts to add pieces as needed down the road. If guys like Keldon, Devin, Sohan, Wemby, Branham, Wesley, Jones, maybe even Champagnie, if they're the foundation that they plan to develop and build upon, who better to be the guy than a legendary coach? And there's definitely going to be growing pains, especially with Wemby, and Pop can definitely handle that and be unfazed, essentially better than a newer or young coach would. I also really think that the fans will be more patient with the team under Pop and not as tempted to blame a new coach if it doesn't seem like things are moving at a fast enough pace. Whether it's the full 5 years or even in the next 3 years, Pop could possibly hand over a young, veteran-filled playoff team to a new coach with not so much on their plate to deal with. I mean, obviously he can't coach forever, and even when he eventually steps down, he's still the team's president and could still be heavily involved. I expect, pretty much like everything else, the Spurs already have a plan as to who the next coach will be, and I can see the transition playing out like the GM one did when Brian Wright replaced R.C. Buford. Regardless of my or any other fans' opinions, the organization has a proven track record of handling all things with a chess, not checkers approach, and I'm sure they'll have a plan that they see through to the end to keep the Spurs regarded as one of the best franchises in the league. Let me know what you think.